ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। We are reading from the book Beyond Birth and Death by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We are in chapter number 4. In Vedic literatures, there is a good deal of information about the material and spiritual skies. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are descriptions of the spiritual sky and of its inhabitants. There is even information given that there are spiritual airplanes in the spiritual sky, and that the liberated living entities there travel about on these planes like lightning. Everything that we find here can also be found there in reality. Here in the material sky, everything is an imitation or shadow of that which exists in the spiritual sky. As in a cinema, we simply see a show or facsimile of the real thing. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that this material world is but a combination of matter modeled on the reality, just as a mannequin of a girl in a store window is modeled on a girl. Every sane man knows that the mannequin is an imitation. Sridhar Swami says that because the spiritual world is real, this material world, which is an imitation, appears to be real. We must understand the meaning of reality. Reality means existence which cannot be vanquished. Reality means eternity. Very beautifully, Srila Prabhupada explains about how, what is the connection between material world and the spiritual world. This material world is nothing but the reflection of the spiritual world. And because this is the imitation, material world is the imitation of the spiritual world, material world appears to be real for our eyes. So just like Prabhupada gives the example of the mannequin of a girl kept in the store window, nicely dressed. Sometimes even the sane man, he gets bewildered. It appears to be real, right? It appears so real because the face is made in that way and the dressing is made in that way. It appears that a real woman is standing behind the glasses. But the fact is that it is just a mannequin, but not the real woman, right? So because spiritual world is real, this material world, because it is imitation of the spiritual world, it also appears to be real. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, also Krishna speaks about how this material world is just a reflection of the spiritual world. He says, Urdhva Mula Adha Shakham Ashwatham Prahur Avyayam. He gives an analogy of a Ashwatha, a tree, and that tree is not a normal tree. It is standing upside down. Its branches are down and its roots are upwards. So where can we see such a tree? In reality, not possible, right? But if you go on the bank of a river and suppose there is a tree on the other side of the river, you can easily see the whole tree, the image of the reflection of the whole tree in the waters of the river, but exactly opposite. So in the reflection, the branches are down and the roots are on top. Same way we understand this material world. Spiritual world, whatever is highest in the spiritual world, when it is reflected in the material world, it becomes lowest. The highest thing in the material spiritual world is prema pumartho mahan. The love of God had love for Krishna. Love is the highest. But when it is reflected in the material world, the same love which is highest becomes the lowest, which becomes the lust. And Sridhara Swami says, reality means existence which cannot be vanquished. Right? So what is the meaning of definition of reality? Reality means the existence which cannot be vanquished. The reality means eternity. Something which is eternal is real. So that is why we hear from so many people, philosophers, spiritualists, that the happiness what we get in this material world is not real. Why? Because reality means eternal. Reality means that which will never vanquish. But the happiness, what we get in this material world, vanquishes as the time passes. It is not eternal, it is temporary. That is why the happiness in this material world is flickering. It doesn't give you real pleasure, real ananda. It is flickering ananda. नासते विद्यते विद्यते भावो ना भावो विद्यते सतः उभयोरपि दृष्टोन्तस् त्वनयोस् तत्वदर्शिभिः. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the existent there is no endurance, and of the existent there is no cessation. This seers have concluded by studying the nature of both. Tattvadarshi Vihi. Tattvadarshi means the seers of the truth, those who have seen the truth. So those who see the truth, they have concluded that the non-existence, there is no endurance. That which is non-existence, it is not eternal. And that which is existent, it has no cessation, it has no annihilation, it is eternal. नासते विद्यते भावो na abhavo vidyate satah. Sata means, sat means eternal. Na sato, it is not eternal. What is that? Bhavo. Na abhavo vidyate satah. That which stays forever is eternal. Existence, that which is with existent. For existent, there is no annihilation, there is no cessation. This seers have concluded by studying the nature of both. Real pleasure is Krishna, whereas material pleasure, which is temporary, is not actual. Those who can see things as they are do not take part in shadow pleasure. The real aim of human life is to attain that spiritual sky. But as Srimad Bhagavatam points out, most people do not know about it. Human life is meant to understand reality and to be transferred into it. Human life is meant to understand the reality and to be transferred into it. That is the goal of human life. All Vedic literature instructs us to remain in this darkness. Sorry. Human life is meant to understand reality and to be transferred into it. All Vedic literatures instructs us not to remain in this darkness. Tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityormam amritam gamaya. What is the meaning of this? This is a Vedic aphorism. Tamasoma jyotirgamaya. Tamasoma, come out of darkness, come out of ignorance, come to light, Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma amritam gamaya. Come out of mrityu, come out of bhava, repetition of birth and death, and situate yourself into amrita, eternity. So this is the real aim of human form of life. The nature of this material world is darkness, but the spiritual world is full of light and yet is not illumined by fire or electricity. Further, Krishna Prabhupada quotes the verse also, Natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. In that abode of mine, the spiritual sky, the spiritual planets, the spiritual world, there is no sun, there is no moon, there is no electricity. Natad bhasayate suryo, Surya refers to sun, na shashanko, not even moon exists. Then, na pavakaha, not even the artificial electricity exists there. Then how is the light? Why it is said that it is full of light? Because it is self-effulgent. Material world is by nature dark. The nature of this material world is darkness. That is why we need a sun to light. In the spiritual world, it is self-effulgent. That is why the sun which gives us light in the material world is not required. The sun has no business in the spiritual world. Sun is required only in the material world. Just like you don't require a torch during the daytime, right? Do we require? No, because enough light is there. Even during the most cloudy days also, there will be enough sunlight so that you can see. But when there is night, when there is no sun, you need torch. You need electricity. But in the spiritual world, it is self-effulgent. That is why the sun of material world, moon of material world, electricity of material world has no place in the spiritual world. Krishna hints of this in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva, very important, yad gatva na nivartante. Once one goes to that world, na nivartante, he does not come back again to this material. Tad dhama, that abode of mine, paramam mama, that is my supreme abode, Krishna says. That abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or the moon, nor by electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. The spiritual world is called unmanifested because it cannot be perceived by material senses. Avyakto akshara ityuktas tam ahuhu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. The last two lines are same as the previous verse, last two lines. Yad gatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Yam prapya na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. Both means the same. But here, in this verse, which is in the 8th chapter, Krishna says, Avyakto Akshara Ityuktas. That spiritual sky is called as unmanifested, Avyakto, because with our material senses, we cannot perceive that spiritual sky. That is why it is called as Avyakto. And it is Akshara. The spiritual world it never falls from its position. Ityuktas, this is how it is said about the spiritual world. That supreme abode is called unmanifested and infallible, and it is the supreme destination. Tam ahuhu paramam gatim. When one goes there, yam prapya na nivartante, he never comes back. Tadhama paramam mama, that is my supreme. A great journey is indicated in this verse. A great journey. We have to be able to penetrate outer space, traverse the material universe, penetrate its covering, and enter the spiritual sky. Paramam gatim. That journey is supreme. There is no question of going a few thousand miles away from this planet and then returning. This sort of journey is not very heroic. We have to penetrate the whole material universe. This we cannot do by spaceships, but by Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada also writes a book about this, about traveling to the easy journey to other planets. In that, Srila Prabhupada explains how not by Sputnik, not by spaceships, but by Krishna consciousness, one can elevate to the higher planetary systems up to the spiritual world. One who is absorbed in Krishna consciousness and who at the time of death thinks of Krishna is at once transferred there. The qualification to get ourselves transferred to the spiritual world is we should be absorbed in Krishna consciousness for life. For entire life, we should be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Then only at the time of death we'll be able to think of Krishna. And if we do so, then we will be transferred to Krishna Loka. Otherwise, it is not possible. That is why chanting a fixed number of rounds is recommended. And today, especially, is Ekadashi. On the days of Ekadashi, one is advised, the serious practitioners of spiritual life are advised to chant more number of rounds. That is why Madhu Pandit Prabhu, whenever he is in Bangalore or in some other centers, if he is available, he conducts this 108 Japa Yajna. So this is meant to develop our consciousness, to absorb our mind in Krishna consciousness. Obviously, after chanting 64 rounds, obviously after chanting 108 rounds, definitely what your mouth will utter, what your mind will say is only Hare Krishna. That is why it is said, Prabhupada also mentions many places, why only 16 rounds? Because Prabhupada says 16 rounds minimum. Sometimes people, devotees, they take 16 rounds as all in all. Minimum and maximum, both 16. No. Prabhupada says, why only 16 rounds? We should chant as much as possible. We should chant always. This is the recommendation. Krishna also says, Satatam kirtayanto mam. Yadantascha dridhavrataha. Just like today, Ekadashi days, many devotees take the vow, dridhavrataha, vrata, that by the end of the day, they will finish 108 rounds. They will finish chanting 64 rounds. Some devotees chant 32 rounds. So this kind of Dhrida is required if we want to have our mind absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And so if we can remember Krishna at the point of leaving this body, we will be transferred to that spiritual world. I don't know if I have mentioned this beautiful real story about a devotee who later became a full-time missionary in ISKCON. It was back in 90s. A young man who was an introvert, who would never openly speak to anybody, who had no friends, practically no friends. He finished his schooling, college, went for a job, and there also he couldn't mingle with much of the people because he was introvert. He was not opening up in front of anybody. And at home also, his relatives, his siblings, they were all not much close with him. So one day, this young man, he thought, I am a waste fellow in this material world. I am not happy at home also. I am not happy at office also. People are not happy with me at home also. People are not happy with me at office also. What is the use of this life? Let me commit suicide. And one morning he got up and he started walking towards a railway track just to lie down on the track and let the train pass over him and commit suicide. So he started walking. But on the way, because it was a Ganesha season, Ganapati Utsav, they do very elaborately in Mumbai. Every gully, there will be big Ganapati installed, and they will worship for 11 days. And after that, big procession to the ocean, and they submerge the Ganapati Vigraha in the ocean. So the morning he started, that was one of the Ganesha day. And while going, he came across a tent wherein one Ganapati was being worshipped. And as usual, the worshippers of the Devatas, more than the bhajans of Devatas, they'll put the Bollywood songs. That gives more pleasure than the bhajans, right? So even in the tent also, a song of Kishore Kumar. Kishore Kumar is a famous singer. His songs were played, and a few lines of that song, this person who had decided to go to the track and commit suicide, after hearing few lines of that song, he changed his mind and he came back to home. You can imagine how powerful those lines were. Those lines said, they were the lines of a beautiful song in the film industry. It says, आ चल के तुझे मैं लेके चलूं एक ऐसे गगन के तले जहां गम भी ना हो आंसू भी ना हो बस प्यार ही प्यार खिले और प्यार ही प्यार मिले, something, some lines. So what is the meaning of this is, a friend is calling another friend, come, I will take you to such a sky, such a world, आ चल के तुझे मैं लेके चलो एक ऐसे गगन के तले. गगन is a sky. Come, let us, I will take you to such a sky where jahan, what is that? Gam bhi na ho, aasu bhi na, where there is no anxiety, where there is no sorrow, no distress, no tears, and where there is only love, only happiness. So as soon as this guy who was determined to go and commit suicide, as soon as he heard that also such a sky also exists where there is only happiness, there are no tears, there is no distress, he thought, I should look for that place instead of committing suicide. So he went back, and his neighbor was a film photographer. He went and approached him and asked him, I heard a few lines of this song. I want to know who is the writer and I want to meet him. So the photographer friend of his neighbor, he found that so and so is the singer and he got the address also. So and so is the writer of the song and he found the address also. And taking that address, he straight away went to that writer's house. He entered and he requested the writer of the song. First, he confirmed whether he only has written that song. So when the writer confirmed that I have only written the lyrics of this song, so he sat with him and he said, I have a few doubts. Could you please help me? So he was very liberal. He said, okay. So they sat and they started discussing. So one of the main question this person asked was that, my dear sir, you have written a beautiful song, beautiful description. You are telling about a place, you are telling about a sky where there are no tears, where there is no sorrow, where there is only happiness, where there is only love. But looks like you have forgotten to write the address. If you can tell me the address of this sky, this place, I wish to go there. There was a broad smile on the face of the writer. He gave a broad smile and he said, my dear boy, there is no such a place like this, what I have mentioned in my song. It is all my imagination. But the young man, he could not digest these words, that it is only imagination. He thought, because this place is full of miseries, full of distress, full of tears, there must be a place where there are no tears, where there is no distress. He was very much convinced. More than the writer, this young man, after hearing that, he was convinced. So somehow he was not satisfied with the answers of the writer. He went back to home and again he was in his own depressed condition. So after a few days, another of his neighbor friend, he came to him and he said, I know a place where you may find some happiness. He said, every week, every Sunday, there's a beautiful program a few miles away from our house in a temple called as ISKCON. I go there every week, every weekend on Sundays, and I find uh, enormous happiness and the whole week's distress, pain, I forget after going there. Why don't you also come with me today? So this young man, because he had tried everything, he thought this is another way. I'll fail here also. I may not appreciate this also. So he said, no, I'm not interested. I don't want to come. You go and come. But the friend forced. Somehow he forced him and convinced him to take him to the temple. And after some time, they traveled and they landed in the temple. And for his good fortune, a class was going on. A pravachan, a discourse was going on Bhagavad Gita. Because every Sundays, just like in ISKCON Bangalore also, we have a program in the morning, right? The Mangalarti, chanting, Darshanarti, Guru Puja, then Bhagavatam discourse, and then Prasadam. Similarly, in other ISKCON temples also, they have sometimes spiritual retreat, Sunday spiritual retreat in the afternoon, because morning times, sometimes people cannot come, some people cannot come. So they have from 12 to 2 o'clock like that, Aarti, then Pravachan, and then Prasadam. So like this, Aarti was over and there was Pravachan, and these two, both of them, they sat for to hear the Pravachan. And for his good fortune, the speaker that day, he was speaking completely about the spiritual world. referring from Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, as in today's paragraph also, today's reading also, it is mentioned that Srimad in second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam also, there is mention of the spiritual sky. Right? So, taking all the reference, the speaker was speaking about the spiritual world and giving all the known details of the spiritual world. And after hearing the entire class for an hour, this man was now really, because he was looking for the address. He had asked that writer, where is the address of that place where there are no tears, where there is only love and happiness. Right? He was asking for the address. And when he heard this discourse, the speaker was speaking mostly focused on this. Natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakah yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. And after hearing this, this young man who at one point of time had decided to commit suicide, had decided to end his life, he got the address of the place, the spiritual world, the abode of Krishna. And that is when he decided that he is going to learn more about Bhagavad Gita. And later, he joined ISKCON in Mumbai as a full-time missionary. And he later started preaching to the people who are distressed like him. Right? So, to reach to that planet, we cannot go by spaceships, but by Krishna consciousness. If we at all want to go to that spiritual sky and cultivate eternal blissful life full of knowledge, we will have to begin now to cultivate a Satchidananda body. It is said that Krishna has a Satchidananda body, Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha Satchidananda Vigraha. And we also have a similar body of eternity, knowledge and bliss. But it is very small and is covered by the dress of matter. If somehow or other we are able to give up this false dress, we can reach that spiritual kingdom. If once we can attain that spiritual world, return is not necessary. Yam prapya na nivartante. Everyone then should try to go to that dham, paramam, Krishna's supreme abode. Krishna himself comes to call us, and he gives us literatures as guidebooks and sends his bona fide representatives. Krishna doesn't come to this material world to kill the demons. He can kill the demon just by coming out of the demon's heart as Paramatma. He did not take trouble all the way to come from spiritual world to material world and expand his leelas. No, he comes. The original purpose of Krishna's coming to this material world is to attract the fallen souls back to the spiritual world. That is his real purpose. He speaks entire Bhagavad Gita, and if you can carefully read the whole Bhagavad Gita, you can see the call of Krishna for each and every living entity. Each and every chapter of the Gita, Krishna calls us back to his eternal spiritual world, which is full of happiness. We should take advantage of this facility given to human life. For one who reaches that supreme abode, penances, austerities, yogic meditations, and so on are no longer required. And for one who does not reach it, all penances, austerities are a useless waste of time. आराधितो यदि हरि tapasa tathakyam, नाराधितो यदि हरि tapasa tathakyam. If you are worshipping Hari, what is the use of tapasya? And if you are not worshipping Hari, what is the use of tapasya? In both the sense, tapasya is useless. If you are not using, if your goal of tapasya is not to satisfy Hari, then it is useless. It is sense gratification. It is tapasya in tamoguna. And if you are already worshipping Hari, then what is the use of tapasya? Because the goal of tapasya is Hari and you are already worshipping Hari. What is the use of अंतर बहिर यदि हरि तपसा तथा किम न अंतर यदि बहिर यदि हरि तपसा तथा किम. If you are already from within worshipping, meditating on Hari, what is the use of tapasya? And if within yourself you are not meditating on Hari, then what is the use of tapasya? The human form of life is an opportunity to get this boon, and it is the duty of the state, of the parents, of the teachers, guardians to elevate those who have acquired this human form of life to attain this perfection of life. There is a very strong verse in one of the scriptures which says, do not become father, do not become mother, do not become a guardian, do not become a teacher. माता न सस्याद पिता न सस्याद स्वजनो न सस्याद गुरुर न सस्याद न मोचयेत समुपैत मृत्युम. If you cannot protect your subordinate, whether your son or disciple, if you cannot protect them from the repetition of birth and death, then do not produce children. Do not accept disciples. Do not become a guardian. These are the strong words of the scriptures. Because it is the responsibility of the teacher, responsibility of the father and mother, responsibility of the guardian, that those who are subordinate to them, those who have taken their shelter as their children or disciples, it is their duty, responsibility to deliver them in that life itself. They should not take another life. This is real responsibility. Otherwise, giving food, giving clothes, giving shelter, even the dogs and cats also does, right? Giving birth, a dog also gives birth. Protecting the child, a dog also protects the child, its babies. Giving food, a dog also gives food. There's a difference between a human mother, human parents, and a animal parents. This is the difference. Human parents, they have the responsibility of delivering that child, their child, in that life itself. Simply eating, sleeping, mating, and quarreling like cats and dogs is not civilization. We should properly utilize this human form of life and take advantage of this knowledge to prepare ourselves in Krishna consciousness so that 24 hours of the day we will be absorbed in Krishna and at death at once transferred to the spiritual sky. So here we end. Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari.